Get started with office hours. So the format of this is we just do Q&A. So if you guys have any questions, please put it down in the Q&A at the bottom, and I will jump in and handle whatever the questions are. So please do um, write any questions that you have, and I will cover those. Rolando, are you there?
Yeah.
Hey, do you have any questions? Anything you want to go over?
Not specifically, but how about something that I asked earlier? So a lot of companies work with insurance, and I was wondering if you could just show us or highlight the specific features or how a feature could be used specifically for insurance jobs instead of retail.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go over that. And for everyone just joining, please do type in your questions. There's a Q&A at the bottom of the Zoom, and just type your questions in there. I'm happy to cover those. But in the meantime, we're going to jump into Rolando's question here. So let me share my screen. So for insurance, if you're working with insurance, if you're doing a lot of insurance, you might want to set up a separate pipeline for that. And you can go into your company settings and then go to stages and then add a new pipeline and type in insurance or whatever else, whatever you'd want to call it. And then you can add out whatever stages that you want for that pipeline. So you can build out an entire new pipeline with stages specifically for insurance if you want to handle those in a separate place from your retail. That's generally not necessary if you're just doing kind of insurance here or there. But if you're doing a lot of insurance work, then it might be worth it to do that just to keep everything separate. Um, the other side of insurance is going to be on the quoting side. So a mistake that's made often is trying to use ProLine quotes in place of an Xactimate, and Xactimate is what the insurance companies use. It doesn't matter how good of a quoting system we have at ProLine, you should always be using Xactimate if you're doing insurance work every single time. And so you'll want to be using Xactimate for quoting insurance-based projects. Now, where ProLine can still help with the insurance process is contingency agreements. So you can have a quote template for your contingency agreement, and that would probably be a very simplified version of a quote. You wouldn't have any any options or upgrades in that quote. It's just about having an image and an introduction, and then you have the terms and conditions of that contingency and then a signature area. We actually have in our pre-built template library, we have a contingency agreement pre-built template that can be used instead of building out your own. And you can always customize that from there if you prefer. In addition to being able to build out that contingency agreement, you can select specific settings like the stage that you move people to when that contingency is signed. So if you have that separate pipeline for insurance, you might want to set up your contingency agreement quote template to move your prospects into that pipeline when they sign a contingency agreement. So there's lots of things that you can do with that. So you have contingency agreement, and then the other side of it is the actual contract to replace the roof. So even once the insurance has approved, generally you're going to still want to put the homeowner under contract for the work, and you're going to want them to sign your terms and conditions and also just verify that they will be passing along that specific amount, even if it's being completely covered by insurance, that specific amount that you're billing them for the roof. And so for that, you can do a couple different things. If you want, you can have a roof replacement contract that's separate from your normal agreements, or you can just also just use your normal quote template, and then when you are creating that quote, you can just modify it, because obviously you don't need multiple options. So you wouldn't need to have like a good, better, best. You could just deselect all these other ones, and then you just have one, and then you type in the amount that is the amount that was approved by insurance, or the amount that it's going to be for the roof. And so you can have a one-to-one match of the price with insurance on that quote that you send. And then in addition to that, though, if you're using a complete quote template with all of your different line items in it, then when you get that quote signed, in the new version of quoting that we're about to release, all that's going to flow into your budgets really nicely. So even if you're overriding that price with a specific number, you can still have all the line items that go into your budgets, and so that you can budget out the cost and the profitability of the job super cleanly. So those are going to be the two areas that you can customize out to work with insurance. Tons of people that work with insurance use ProLine. It's just about customizing it to that use case so that you can use it for that. The biggest hang up and the biggest question we get is like, oh, can I use this instead of Xactimate? And the answer to that is no. Has nothing to do with how good or bad ProLine quoting is. ProLine quoting is perfectly capable of quoting any job. It's just the fact that the insurance companies are expecting an Xactimate. And so you definitely need to be using an Xactimate when you quote insurance work. All right. Let's look in the Q&A here from Keith. How do you track all leads that have come in, i.e. number of leads? And also closing rate. Can you click on anything to see actual jobs won by the rep? Okay, so we'll tackle these one at a time. You can track all of your leads on the business reports page. If you go to marketing, you can set all of your filters up here at the top. You can look at individual lead sources. You can look at start and end dates. You can put in zip codes, specific services, locations. You can filter this however you like. And then when you click to run report, you're going to get the total number of leads that came in during that period. You can also look at the total number of leads that are in your account right now, including ones that came in before the period. And then also how many leads got converted to open projects, which generally means they received a quote. Not always, but generally. And so you have a conversion rate. And then also you have revenue per lead. This is a really useful metric because you can then look back. This is going to tell you how much money did you make off of every lead that you, on average, off of every lead that came in. So obviously a lot of leads that come in are not going to turn into sales for one reason or another. They're not going to make it through the pipeline. That's fine. But knowing what your revenue per lead is allows you to compare and know exactly what you can stomach as far as cost per lead. So if the revenue per lead is $150, then you know that you need to be able to get leads for less than $150 in order for that marketing to make sense. We will in the future have the ability to track lead costs and assign lead costs to certain leads, and the the marketing expenses. You'll have a place inside of ProLine to put marketing expenses. That's not something that we have right now, and it's not something necessarily we're going to have in the near future, but it is something that we are working on at some point, is the ability to enter in your marketing costs so that not only do you have a revenue per lead, but you also will have a cost per lead. And with that cost per lead, you'll be able to specifically look at that difference between revenue per lead and cost per lead. All right. Closing rate. Closing rate is going to be on the sales business reporting page. And so you have the same options here, start and end dates, and you can filter all that. And then you can generate a report. And then you have all this different information around profitability, the value of projects that are won, and then you have your sales close rate down here in the corner here, so you can know exactly what your close rate is. And this is the number of projects that were open that then became won versus the ones that became um, the ones that did not. And so that's a very specific calculation, and it's a little bit different. We are very careful that this is an accurate number and not. We don't just look at how many went to loss and how many went to won. We look at the ratio of won projects to projects that are either lost or are still open, and that tells you a very accurate percentage close rate for that period. Can you click on anything to see actual jobs won by a rep? Sure. Yeah, you can filter on this page. It's not as clean as we'd like it to be, but you can select My Projects on the Projects page, and then you can go to the whatever page shows your sold jobs, whether that be on maybe it's on production or on billing, and then you can then select the sales rep that you want to view. And then once you've selected that, now you're going to see only their projects. So you can see exactly how many are in paid and closed, how many are in each of these stages for that sales rep that you've selected. Also, we will be okay. So in addition to that, you can also come in here. Yeah, team members. So you can go to sales and you can go to a specific team member and you can filter this sales report for that team member and you can see exactly how many won projects that were in that selected period, what is their specific close rate, what is the money from their won projects. So yes, you can filter down this report as well by the team member and get their specific metrics. All right, hopefully that helps. So the question is, what are the things that can affect this business report? If I create a test project, will that affect the reports? Also, can I export this to Excel? Yes, if you create a test project, it will affect the reports. So keep that in mind with your test projects. You can move those. You just keep it in mind. You may want to delete those once you're done testing, or just always have it and like um, you can just keep it in your leads area. There's a number of things you can do with it. But if you have any significant amount of numbers, then the test project shouldn't really be messing that much up. But do keep that in mind. Test projects are not excluded from this business report. All right. Also, can I export it to Excel? We are working on the ability to export the raw data behind these reports to Excel. You can do that somewhat already on the all projects page. You can select similar filters and then export to CSV. And this has a lot of the same data that we're looking at will be in this CSV. But we are also working on this reports page, having an ability to look at all of the projects that are in a specific area. So you could see there's 4 new won projects. Having a button here to click on, you can see those 4 projects and then be able to export those 4 projects to CSV as well. So that is something that we're working on as well. You cannot export the whole report to CSV. That's not something that you can do. We have looked at potentially allowing a PDF export of this in a static image. But we are working on allowing the export of specific lists. The next question is, could we view how things are calculated in that update? I'm not sure what that means. Maybe you can give some more clarity there on what that means. Okay, so we'll wait for any clarification on that last question. Could we view how things are calculated in that update? I'm not sure. You'll be able to view which projects were in that calculation. Yes. As far as like the formula that was used, like the math behind it, that is if you hover over this eye icon, we're going to work on making that clickable. So it's a little bit more, a little easier to read, but it breaks down how that is calculated. So you'll be able to export both the raw data list and then also this information will tell you how it's been calculated from a like formula standpoint. Okay. Any other questions? I'm gonna hang out for a couple more minutes here. See if there's any other questions. Otherwise, we'll wrap up. All right. Doesn't look like there's any other questions, so we will wrap up there. Thanks for joining today, guys. And if you have any other further questions or need more clarification on that, please feel free to reach out to our support. Ideally through the chat down here in the right-hand corner of ProLine. That's the easiest and fastest way. But you can also do that through support@proline.app just by emailing that email address. So I'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks for joining.